You are not where you are because you did not work hard enough. That is not the problem. The problem is something most men never look at, something that operates beneath effort, beneath discipline, beneath every system, habit, and morning routine you have ever tried. Researchers who studied lottery winners found something that should not be possible. Within 2 years of winning, the majority had returned to the same financial position they were in before the money arrived. Not because they were careless, not because they were unlucky, because the money was new, but the identity was not. There is a mechanism inside you right now that is deciding the ceiling of your life, not your work ethic, not your talent, not your circumstances, the mechanism. And until you understand it, no amount of effort will move you past the ceiling it has already set. The cycle of the ceiling. You know the version of this story that belongs to you. You pushed, you built momentum, things started moving, and then somehow they stopped. Not because of one decision, not because of one failure. It just stopped. And you found yourself looking at a life that looks almost exactly like the one you were trying to leave. You tried a different approach, a different environment, a different routine, and the same patterns showed up. Different city, same ceiling, different job, same financial position, different relationship, same dynamic. You started to wonder whether the problem was you. It is not you, not in the way you think. It is a setting, and settings can be changed. But first, you need to understand what the setting actually is, where it came from, and why every attempt to override it from the outside has failed. It's important to understand that this isn't just mindset fluff. This is biology. Your brain operates on a principle called allostasis, the process by which the body responds to stressors in order to regain homeostasis. When you try to make a massive leap in your income or your lifestyle, your brain doesn't see success. It sees deviation. To your primitive limbic system, any deviation from the known path is a threat to survival. This is why you feel that internal friction when things start going too well. You start procrastinating, or you get a sudden bout of burnout that doesn't make sense given your goals. Your brain is literally inducing fatigue and distraction to force you back into the thermal range it recognizes as safe. You are fighting a neurochemical battle against your own amygdala. Most men try to win that battle with willpower, but willpower is a finite battery. Identity is a nuclear reactor. You cannot outwill a brain that thinks it is saving your life. You have to convince the brain that the new level is the only place where you are truly safe. This is what the thermostat principle explains. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The mechanics of the set point of thermostat has one job. It maintains a target temperature. When the room gets too cold, it activates and brings the heat up. When the room gets too warm, it cuts off and lets the temperature fall back down. The thermostat does not care what temperature you want. It only cares about the temperature it has been set to. Your identity works the same way. Deep in your subconscious, there is a set point, a fixed internal answer to the question of who you are, what you deserve, and what is normal for a man like you. When your life dips below that set point, something pushes you to rise. You feel motivated. You take action. Things improve. When your life rises above that set point, something pulls you back. Not consciously, not deliberately. The system just corrects. This is why the lottery winners went back. The money was above their set point. The internal thermostat activated, and it brought them back to the temperature they were calibrated for. We must also look at the social thermostat. You are not an island. You are part of a tribe. Whether that tribe is your family, your friend group, or your professional circle, there is a collective thermostat running. When you begin to out-earn or outperform the people you spend the most time with, the thermal alarm goes off for them too. They will subconsciously try to pull you back down, not because they are evil, but because your growth makes their current temperature feel cold and uncomfortable. They might make jokes about your new lifestyle or remind you of who you used to be. If your identity is still tied to being one of the guys at the $50,000 level, you will subconsciously sabotage your $500,000 opportunities just to stay emotionally connected to your tribe. This is the crab in a bucket syndrome, but the bucket isn't the people around you. It's the identity you've built that requires their approval. To raise the thermostat, you must be willing to feel the chill of being misunderstood by people who are still calibrated to a lower setting. This is also why you can work harder than anyone in the room and still end up in the same place. Effort does not change the set point. Discipline does not change the set point. Information does not change the set point. Only one thing changes the set point, and that is a direct update to the identity that created it. Think about what Carnegie Hall research revealed about elite performance. The researchers expected to find that the best musicians had simply practiced more hours than the rest. That was the assumption. Work harder, get further. What they found was more specific than that. The musicians at the top had not just practiced more. They had practiced with a particular kind of deliberate intention, one driven not by the desire to get better at technique, but by a fixed internal image of the player they already believed themselves to be. The practice confirmed the identity. The identity raised the ceiling. The ceiling determined the result. As you begin to see your own patterns through this frame, something shifts in how you understand them. Lessons from history. This is not a modern idea dressed in modern language. The two most powerful examples of deliberate identity reconstruction in recorded history happened thousands of years apart, and both understood the thermostat before the word existed. Epictetus. Epictetus was born a slave in ancient Rome. He had no money, no status, no freedom of movement, and no legal rights over his own body. His master, at one point, broke his leg deliberately as a demonstration of ownership. Epictetus looked at him while it was happening and said, "You are going to break it. And when you do, you will find it is broken." No panic, no begging, no collapse, because Epictetus had already done something his master could not touch. He had set his internal thermostat at a level that physical circumstances could not reach. He had decided at the level of identity what kind of man he was, and that decision was not available for revision by anyone outside him. He was eventually freed. He went on to found a school of philosophy that shaped the thinking of emperors, generals, and the entire Stoic tradition. His words are still studied today. The chains were removed, but the identity had never been in the chains. The Spartan Agoge. Sparta did not produce elite warriors by accident. They produced them by design. The Agoge was a state-run identity reconstruction program that began at age 7. Boys were removed from their families and placed into a system built around one specific outcome: the complete replacement of a child's civilian identity with the identity of a Spartan soldier. They were not taught to fight first. They were taught to see themselves in a specific way first. The fighting was downstream of the identity. They were exposed to cold, to hunger, to failure, to loss, not as punishment, but as calibration. Each experience was designed to raise the set point for what felt normal, tolerable, and acceptable. By the time a Spartan soldier entered battle, retreat did not compute, not because he was suppressing fear, because the internal thermostat had been set at a level where retreat was simply below the floor of who he was. The system worked for 300 years, not because Spartans were born different, because their identity was built different. Two histories, two completely different worlds, one man with nothing, one system with everything, the same principle running beneath both: how to raise the set point. So how do you actually raise the set point? Not theoretically, practically, in a way that holds. The thermostat is not changed by action, it is changed by identity. And identity is changed the same way it was originally formed, through repeated experience, real or imagined, paired with genuine emotional engagement. The subconscious cannot tell the difference between something that happened and something that was rehearsed with full emotional presence. This is not a theory. It is the documented basis of every elite performance system ever studied. Neuroscientists call this Hebbian theory. Neurons that fire together, wire together. When you vividly imagine a new reality with high emotional intensity, you are physically myelinating new neural pathways. You are building a memory of the future. Elite athletes use this via Peterson's law of cybernetics. When a pro golfer visualizes a swing, the same muscles in their body twitch at a microscopic level. Their brain cannot distinguish between the simulated swing and the physical swing. Most men are visualizing all day long, but they are visualizing the wrong things. They are rehearsing their debts. They are rehearsing the client saying no. They are rehearsing the feeling of the ceiling hitting them in the head. They are practicing the $40,000 a year identity 16 hours a day. To change the setting, you have to hijack that process. You have to become a disciplined editor of the internal movies you play, ensuring that every frame of your mental film is calibrated to the man you intend to be. Frank Kern, one of the most studied direct response minds of his generation, built an entire method around what he called the ideal average day. The practice was simple. Describe in precise sensory detail what a normal day looks like for the man you are becoming. Not the peak day, not the best case, the average day, what you wake up to, what you work on, what the environment feels like, who you are in it, then rehearse it repeatedly with full emotional engagement. The point was not visualization as motivation. The point was identity installation. Feeding the subconscious a new set point through repetition until the internal thermostat recalibrated around the new image. There is a final layer to this: specificity. Dan Kennedy, the legend of direct response, always said that the mind cannot move toward a foggy target. If your identity is "I want to be rich," your thermostat has nothing to grip. Rich isn't a temperature, it's a wish. You need a number, you need a date, you need a sensory experience. Think back to John D. Rockefeller. He didn't just want money, he viewed himself as a clerk for God. He tracked every single cent in a ledger he called Ledger A. Why? Because a man who manages millions must be a man who knows where the pennies are. By acting like a high-level treasurer when he only had $3, he was telling his subconscious, "I am already the man who manages vast sums." The external world simply had to catch up to the bookkeeping he was already doing internally. You must start bookkeeping for the life you haven't arrived at yet. You must dress for the temperature you want, not the temperature you have. The Spartan system used cold and hunger. Epictetus used philosophical repetition. Kern used written rehearsal. The medium is different. The mechanism is identical. Expose the subconscious to the new identity, repeatedly, with enough emotional weight that it encodes as real, and the thermostat recalibrates. The 90-day conversion. Imagine 90 days from now. You wake up and something is different. Not louder, not more urgent, quieter. The ceiling is gone, not because you broke through it by force, because you raised the floor. The level that used to feel like your peak is now the level that feels uncomfortable to fall below. The thermostat has been reset, and it is holding. Why 90 days? Because that is the standard cycle of cellular turnover and habituation. It takes roughly 3 months of consistent identity broadcasting before the subconscious stops fighting the new signal and starts accepting it as the new normal. During the first 30 days, it will feel like a lie. You will feel like an imposter. During the next 30 days, it will feel like a struggle. The old thermostat will be kicking the heaters on and off, trying to find the old setting. But by the third 30-day block, something miraculous happens. The stretch becomes the floor. You start to find that you can no longer tolerate the things you used to accept. You can't tolerate the old habits. You can't tolerate the old income. You can't tolerate the old version of yourself. At that point, the battle is won. The external world has no choice. It must reorganize itself to match the person you have become. Because the universe does not give you what you want. It gives you what you are calibrated to receive. That is not something that happens to you. That is something you install. The lottery winners did not fail because they lacked gratitude. They failed because the money outran the identity. The musicians at Carnegie Hall did not succeed because they worked harder than everyone else. They succeeded because the identity pulled the work up to meet it. Epictetus did not survive chains and emerge as a philosopher because of willpower. He survived because his set point was already above anything his circumstances could impose on him. The ceiling you keep hitting is not a ceiling. It is a thermostat reading, and you are the one holding the dial. Change the identity. The reality has no choice but to follow.